This is the last GPU update for 2021, and oh my gosh, have we saved the absolute worst and the best for last. Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Pour yourself a stiff drink because the market is still a mess. But what does 2022 hold for us? Is it going to get better? Well, we'll go through that. I think it will. It's all about the timing. If you get value in this video, remember, give it a like. It makes a big difference to the channel. He really appreciates it. And we're about to hit 100,000 subscribers. So click that subscribe and the bell icon. That way you get notified when we release new content. With that, let's jump into it. Let's jump straight into the Tom's Hardware eBay average GPU price tracking. And you can see if you want an NVIDIA graphics card, the final data from November, which includes Black Friday, is terrible. It's absolutely terrible, just as I said it was going to be. I urge you, if you wanted one of those GPUs, to pick it up earlier this year. Don't wait for prices to go up. Sadly, they did. However, the opposite is actually true for the Radeon GPU. So let's just quickly go through this. So if you wanted an RTX 3090, you were paying 7% more now. You're paying an average of $2,936. I think this prices continue to go up throughout the December holiday. And of course, if you want the 3080 Ti, the 3080, these are all gone up. They've gone up by at least 3, anywhere to 10% depending on the GPU. However, with the Radeon graphics cards, and the reason you see these prices highlighted in yellow is because I actually have not used eBay pricing for them, because they are now widely available on Newegg and other sites in the United States without having to buy any kind of combo with them. So for instance, if you want to get an RX 6600, you don't have to buy this as a motherboard combo anymore, and you certainly don't have to use Newegg Shuffle. You can just go out and buy it for, $560. I'm not saying the price is good, but no longer do you have to jump through hoops to get them. And honestly, the RX 6600 XT is probably the better deal at $620, not too much more, for quite a bit more performance. Similarly, with all the Radeon RX 6800 XT, 6700 XT, here you can see it $860, so on and so forth. But you can go out right now and buy these GPUs, and you can buy them for less than you're going to pay on eBay. And yeah, of course, the price is inflated, but the overall pricing for these GPUs, for most of them, has come down. The Radeon RX 6800 I could not find on any retailer, only available through eBay and at low volumes. We'll just ignore that card for right now. But as you can see, the pricing is either flat or slightly negative. That's actually a good trend. I expected for the holidays everything to be wiped out, including the AMD graphics cards. So the fact that they're still there means we didn't get wiped out as bad as we thought. We still had more supply than we thought, and demand was not as intense as I feared. And just taking a look at the graph really quickly, you can see the pricing has been flat since August, except for the really expensive cards like the RTX 3090, which have just shot through the absolute roof, but for everything else has remained relatively flat. So let's talk about the demand. A lot of gamers would just say, screw it, I've waited long enough, I've waited over a year, I'm gonna go out and buy a graphics card, and I'm just gonna get discounts on other components in order to make up for the price. And certainly a lot of folks did, and they did build PCs, and congrats if you were one of them. It's been a tough time, I know, but congrats if you actually finished your PC build finally. But who's really buying the graphics card? Well, it's primarily Ethereum miners, and it starts out like this. This is a great story on the Reddit Ethereum channel. Yes, this person started off by buying 2 RTX 3070s, and then they built a rig, and at first it was small time, and then they added a couple more cards to it. The next thing you know, they had 4 cards, then they had 5, then they had a whole rack, then they had 2 racks full of cards, and then they had 3 racks full of cards. But this is, and now they're buying 3090s. This is the way that Ethereum mining is going, and I would actually call it, and look at this, now they've got a ton of Ethereum. This is a story that has repeated itself over and over, and let's not forget, there are entire warehouses of graphics cards that are doing nothing other than mining primarily Ethereum right now. That's where all of this is. So as we've gone over before, this is all being driven by the price of Ethereum. This is the primary GPU mineable currency. It accounts for 95% of the GPU mineable market cap out there. The other cryptocurrencies that you might have heard of that you can mine with a graphics card. Remember, Bitcoin you mine with an ASIC miner, it's very different. But the other coins that you mine with a graphics card, like Ravencoin and other, they are very, very tiny compared to Ethereum. Right now it's at 4,126. As we know, the price spiked up starting about this time last year, spiked up all the way at about 4,000 in May, dropped to about 1,700. in June, July, that's when graphics card prices started to come back down, and we were very excited. Unfortunately, they made some changes to Ethereum mining itself and how they get paid, and that spiked the value of the currency up to where it is right now, which is well over 4,800 in early November, but it has stagnated between around about 4,000. It's 3,700 to 4,100. And that stagnation has occurred at the same time that the difficulty of mining Ethereum continues to rise. Ethereum has a built-in mechanism to stop hyperinflation. Otherwise, everybody just jump on there with a zillion graphics cards and they mine it and get a zillion Ethereum, and it would be worthless because it would hyperinflate the currency. So what they do is every time another graphics card gets on the market and on the network and starts mining, it becomes harder and harder. And you can see the difficulty going up here from this time last year, about 3,600 to all the way to 7,800 in May, and now it's well over 12,000. And that is an insane amount of difficulty. That means the RTX 3090 that you bought to add and do mining on back in the beginning of this year is getting way, way less in terms of profitability. In fact, let's take a look at that profitability. Right now, the profitability stands about $6.10 per 24 hours. That's a daily profit for an RTX 3090. When we looked at this, when graphics card prices were falling in the summer, it was about $6.48. Now, as I hit refresh here, I know you can note that the price of Ethereum, when I started filming this, was $3,900. It's now $4,100. Just underscores how volatile Ethereum is. It bounces hundreds of dollars each day, but it's been in this kind of comfortable band of about $4,000. As long as it stays there, and as long as more miners keep adding cards onto the network, which they're doing at an insane rate still, even though it's not profitable to do so, so many people have been sucked into this bubble that they're just going bonkers and buying graphics cards. This is going to continue to go down and down. So even if nothing changed with Ethereum, just the overall difficulty would start dragging the price of these graphics cards down eventually. When are things going to change? Because I truly believe that 2022 is going to launch a golden age of PC building. As hard as things have been, they're going to be that good on the other side. And let's go through quickly why. Number one, AMD, NVIDIA, and Intel are going to launch graphics cards, and especially they're going to launch them at the low end where we've had no cards whatsoever, and it's forced low-end buyers to compete with mid-range buyers who then compete with higher-end GPU buyers because there's been no graphics cards for them. And that's hurt everybody. Even if you don't want a budget graphics card, the lack of a budget graphics card market has forced those folks to come up and compete with you for the higher end graphics cards. And it has helped nobody whatsoever. AMD and NVIDIA have made record profits because these are the highest margin cards. But AMD, and at least as reported by folks like Moore's Law is Dead, may be realizing that, hey, this has been a bad strategy for us because our graphics cards are sitting on shelves right now. As I showed you at Newegg, you can buy them right now. They are available. But the problem is that people want NVIDIA graphics card. AMD has abandoned the low end where it typically did really well. Now they're realizing, oh my goodness, what have we done? So they're preparing to flood the markets, as I hear, with the RX 6500 XT. Let's see if they deliver a similar amount of volume that they did for the 6600 line, then I think we're going to be in really good shape. The other thing, obviously, is Intel's getting into the graphics card business, and they're going to bring a lot more volume. Yes, it's still being produced by TSMC, but this is TSMC production that may have gone to like Apple Silicon or something else instead, and it's going to be used to produce graphics card. So the overall production of GPUs is going to go up. That is a great thing. And of course, NVIDIA is going to launch some new cards. We won't get into all that because mostly they're just going to be rebranded cards for NVIDIA to figure out how to squeeze out another couple $100 out of you when you go to buy a graphics card. And I don't really feel like giving them any more airtime for that right now. What is the other and probably the more major thing that's going to happen is Ethereum by June of 2022 is going to move to what's called proof of stake. It's called the merge. That means GPU mining is going away. And as they are 95% of the overall GPU mining market, that means 100% of the miners are going to be fighting over, again, 5% of the overall profits. So GPU mining, as we know, is going to get destroyed, which is great. great for gamers because those are the folks who are buying up all the freaking GPUs right now. So that's going to happen in June. Now, how close are they? Because yes, I know people will say, well, Jason, they've said this before. They have said this before, but they have never actually been this close to actually physically having the infrastructure in place to do the merge. So they just launched the public testnet. The way you can think about this is that Ethereum went from an alpha, an internal alpha where they launched this kind of at a conference a couple months ago, to they went to a closed beta where they were just doing these different test nets, to now they have a public test net that anybody can jump into. So if you think about this like a game launches, first you go the alpha, that's closed, and you go a closed beta, and then you go the open beta just before you're ready to launch this so you can find and kill any of those last minute bugs. And then of course, if you're doing something like Battlefield 2042, you launch it with bugs anyway. The Ethereum folks are a little bit more careful than that. So that means they are very, very close to this thing going live because they are now at what we can call a public beta test, the open beta test. So the merge is coming. The difficulty bomb, which will end mining one way or the other, is set to go off in June. Could they punt that again? Yes, of course they could. I don't want to make it sound like they can't. They just did punt it. It was supposed to go off in December. I believe this time they have everything in place to actually go forward with the merge. And they said that they will make a decision on the timing of this by February of 2022, or around February of 2022. So what is it going to mean for the graphics card market when Ethereum actually goes through with the merge? It's going to be more than just a reduction of demand. You're actually going to see a tidal wave of used graphics cards. How many used graphics cards? Let me show you, and let's try and estimate. So right now, if you look at the total hash rate on the Ethereum network, that's all the hashing power out there, it's 930 terahash. Now that's kind of hard to think about, right? But what if we put it in terms of how many graphics cards that was? So 930 terahash becomes 930,000 gigahash, becomes 930 million megahash. And graphics card power is typically expressed in megahash per second. So for instance, if we looked at an RTX 3090, that has 114 megahash per second. So if you divide 930 million by 114, you find that there are about 8 million graphics cards, RTX 3090 graphics cards worth of hashing power out there. Now, they're obviously not all RTX 3090s, they're not all 1660 Supers, but this is just a kind of a dumbed down way of thinking about it so that we can wrap our heads around it, because these numbers are so big. If those are RX 580s, that's 30 million graphics cards of RX 580s worth. So you can see, depending on what kinds of graphics cards are out there, and of course, there's also how much of that is ASIC mining versus graphics card mining. I think 50% would be way too high, but just to humor the miners out there, they're going to give me a hard time down in the comments. Sure, let's say that 50% are ASICs. That's still 15 or 16 million GTX 1660 Supers worth of graphics cards out there mining. Now, it's probably quite a bit more than that. So you can see there is going to be an absolute flood, because these folks, the miners, are going to have nothing else to do with those graphics cards except sell them off and try and get some value back for them. So let's play everyone's favorite. Should you buy now or should you wait? Well, again, most of the changes we're talking about are going to occur in the second quarter of 2022. And remember, even when Ethereum goes to the merge, some of those miners might hold on to those graphics cards, just hoping against hope, for a month or so before reality begins to set in and we see a lot of panic selling. Maybe the panic selling will even begin earlier than that. It all depends on how many miners really start grappling with, oh my gosh, GPU mining is going away. Do I want to wait until I can't get hardly any value out of my rig, or do I want to sell earlier than that and try and beat everybody else and maximize my value? And remember, you don't have to buy a used graphics card. I'm not telling you you're going to be forced to buy a used graphics card. And the last time I said that, people freaked out. I don't want to buy a used graphics card. It's going to depress the prices of the entire market, because you're going to have a flood of supply, because there will be people out there willing to pay $300 for an a used RTX 3080 and say, hey, what the heck? It's only $300. The new 3080s aren't going to sell for as much. It's going to depress the pricing of the whole market, which is a good thing for gamers. At the same time, Intel and AMD are going to be delivering a lot more volume to the market. So it's going to be as perfect a storm as it has been against gamers in 2021. It's going to flip, and it's going to be that perfect storm in 2022. And I think June, July, August is going to be a fantastic time to build a new gaming PC. So if you are thinking about waiting and you can hold out for the next, I'd say 7 months until the middle of 2022, that is going to be, to me, the best time to think about building a brand new gaming PC, and you'll probably be able to save quite a bit of money doing it. If, however, the timing is more important to you and you can forego a little bit of the cash, again, we're talking about a couple of $100s. So if the timing is more important to you, then by all means, buy now. And I would recommend getting an AMD graphics card because they are available right now for not the worst prices. If you're a budget builder looking to build a budget gaming rig, you may actually be able to build earlier than that. We'll see. Again, AMD, Intel, and maybe even NVIDIA are going to launch low-end graphics cards. And at the same time, we're going to see the first low-end CPUs that we've seen in almost 2 years now. So it might be a perfect storm for budget builders earlier in the year. And if you want to build more of a mid-range to high-end system and do it at MSRP, you're probably going to be looking at July or August. So if you do want to build right now, what should you do? I would recommend getting an AMD graphics card from somebody like Newegg. You can now, at least in the United States, you can buy these graphics cards without having to bundle them. That's phenomenal. You can now put together any platform you want, not get locked into whatever cruddy motherboard that Newegg wants to ship with you. Now, if you want, you can still get the combos, but it's only like $5 off, so I wouldn't do it. I would stick with the choice. Buying a pre-built gaming PC is still the best value option at many price points, especially at the high end. If you want an RTX 3000 series card, I would strongly recommend getting a pre-built because the system integrators and the OEMs get the cards far, far cheaper than you do, and they get all the rest of the components far, far cheaper than you or I do. Now, I hope that 8 months from now, we're talking about building a PC still makes more financial sense than buying a pre-built, but at least in this environment, it doesn't outside of the ultra cheap things you're going to build like a 5600G kind of PC. So I recommend my best pre-built gaming PC video. I go through this, and down here in the video description, I keep a list of all the best deals. One of those deals right now is that I think is phenomenal is RTX 2060 with an i5-11400F, a good air cooler on it right there. Overall, 16 gigabytes of memory, $1,000. But you can find these kinds of deals, and I dig them up, and I regularly change out that list in that video. The other thing to look at is, of course, getting a gaming laptop. Recently updated my best gaming laptops 2021 video where I go through how to buy it. I include like the TGP and how to understand all that. And then, of course, I make my recommendations down here, and I update this on a regular basis as well. If you don't like my video, go find somebody else's. But there are options available if you decided that building a PC right now is simply beyond you, but you still need something. These are actually pretty good options. And of course, if you are trying to get an RTX graphics card, a NVIDIA graphics card, Newegg Shuffle continues to be the primary way, at least in the US, you're going to get one other than buying it straight from eBay or a secondary seller site. It's interesting, they're actually shuffling off DDR5 memory right now. So gosh, poor Intel and their Alder Lake launch. I know they had high hopes for this, but they've really been done in by early adopter issues and this DDR5 shortage. Anyway, if you're looking for a graphics card, Newegg Shuffle is still the way to get an NVIDIA graphics card. Remember, if you got value to the video, give it a big like. It makes a huge difference, especially to this guy right here. And we're just hitting 100,000 subscribers. Come on, join us. Click that subscribe button and the bell icon. That way you get notified when we release new content. What did you think about our 2021 last GPU update of the year? Are you excited for 2022? Are you excited to finally be able to buy a GPU at MSRP later in the year? Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? So with that, we will catch you on the next one.